Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Heavy rain in Jammu and Kashmir's Ramban triggers multiple landslides. 3 people dead, several rescued. National highway stands blocked. Rescue and relief operation underway. Ukraine President Zelenskyy accuses its Russian counterpart Putin of already breaching Easter truce, says fighting ongoing in border regions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirms its military campaign in Gaza, says have no choice but to continue fighting until victory. And Christians across the world celebrate Easter as it marks the celebration of Jesus Christ's resurrection 3 days after his crucifixion. A very good afternoon to all the viewers joining us at this afternoon broadcast on DD India Live. To begin with the latest, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a 2-day visit to Saudi Arabia on Tuesday at the invitation of the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be welcomed in Jeddah by Crown Prince himself. The two leaders will co-chair the second meeting of the Strategic Partnership Council. Several MOUs between the two sides are also expected to be signed after the bilateral talks.
Bolstering defence and economic ties will be the key focus for Prime Minister Modi when he comes calling on Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will receive Prime Minister Modi here in Jeddah, and the two leaders will co-chair the second meeting of the Indo-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council.
This will be Prime Minister Modi's first visit to the kingdom during his third term as Prime Minister, though the Prime Minister has previously visited Saudi Arabia twice in 2016 and 2019.
The visit is important also on account of the obvious significance of Saudi Arabia as a strategic partner for India. You're aware of the salience that this relationship has for India's energy security. Saudi Arabia hosts a very large Indian expatriate community, possibly the second largest expatriate community of its kind anywhere in the world. Saudi Arabia is a leading voice in the Islamic world and is increasingly playing an important role in regional developments. And therefore, from all of these perspectives, the visit provides an opportunity to build on the already strong relations with this strategic partner.
The visit would see signing of several memoranda of understanding between the two sides in various sectors, including energy.
We signed the memorandum of understanding in the field of electrical interconnections and green and clean hydrogen and supply chains. The electricity grid interconnection MOU is something on which work is expected to start imminently in terms of a study to lay out the feasibility of this connection. But we see the possible agreements between the two countries on clean hydrogen as another very important trade-linked initiative under this.
Apart from the bilateral aspect of the relationship, the Russia-Ukraine war will be a significant area of discussion between the two leaders. The ongoing tensions in West Asia and concerns over Houthi attacks on commercial shipping are likely to figure in the talks. During his 2-day visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also visit a factory in Jeddah and interact with Indian workers there.
Given that Saudi Arabia is home to a 2.7 million strong Indian diaspora, The talks would focus on how to increase the participation of Indian workers in Saudi Arabia's economy. The Prime Minister shall also be visiting a factory to meet Indian workers here. The talks would also focus on how Saudi Arabia could increase the quota of Hajj pilgrims from India. With my colleague Neeraj Singh and cameraman Saurabh Bakshi, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Jeddah.
US Vice President J.D. Vance will visit India from the 21st of April till the 24th of it, marking his first official trip to the country and his first to Asia since President Donald Trump took the office. Accompanied by his wife Usha Vance, their children and senior officials, the Vice President will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi on April 21 in New Delhi. He is also scheduled to visit Jaipur and Agra during his stay. The visit aims at strengthening bilateral ties and discuss key regional and global issues. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is all set to visit US and Peru from the 20th till the 30th of April. In the course of a two-day visit to San Francisco beginning the 20th of April, the Union Finance Minister will deliver a keynote address at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University on laying the foundations of Viksit Bharat 2047, followed by a fireside chat session. Nirmala Sitharaman will also interact with top CEOs from top information technology firms based in San Francisco. She will also participate in an event featuring Indian diaspora in San Francisco and interact with the Indian community. During her visit to Washington, D.C. from the 22nd till the 25th of April, Finance Minister will also participate in spring meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. On the sidelines of the spring meetings in Washington, D.C., the minister will hold bilateral meetings with her counterparts from several countries. During her maiden visit to Peru from 26th till the 30th of April, the Union Finance Minister will lead an Indian delegation of officials from the Ministry of Finance and business leaders, highlighting the strengthening bilateral economic and trade relations between the two nations. Beginning her visit in Lima, Union Finance Minister is also expected to call on the President of Peru, Prime Minister of Peru, besides holding bilateral meetings with other ministers. In the course of her visit to Peru, the Union Finance Minister will also chair the India-Peru Business Forum meeting. The Union Finance Minister will also participate in a community event at Lima, where she will interact with the Indian diaspora living there. Now, Union Minister of State for External Affairs and Textiles, Pavitra Margarita, held talks with Malaysia's Deputy Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry, Chin Tong Liu. Margarita said that his talks focused on ways to further enhance India-Malaysia trade. In a post on social media platform X, he said, and I quote, had a productive meeting with His Excellency Vice Liu Ching Tong, Deputy Minister at Malaysia's Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. Discussed ways to further enhance India-Malaysia trade, investment and economic cooperation, as well as the means to provide impetus for a pursuing collaboration in semiconductor sector, unquote. Now, the two-day air show by the Indian Air Force's Surya Kiran aerobatic team will conclude today at the Namkom Army Ground in Ranchi in India's Jharkhand. The Indian Air Force's renowned Surya Kiran aerobatic team was formed in the year 1996 and is among the very few 9 aircraft aerobatics team in the world and the only one in Asia. The team performed with passion, discipline and enthusiasm at the event, divided into two parts, which is the composite phase and the synchro phase. The Surya Kiran aerobatic team, popularly known as CAT, inherits the motto Sadaiv Sarvottam, which means ease, aptly describing the adage, always the best. Now, the maiden edition of Exercise Africa India Key Maritime Engagement 2025 concluded with a closing ceremony held at King Amboni at Dar es Salaam on the 18th of April. The Indian Navy was represented by INS Chennai and INS Kesari. Indian Ocean Sagar was also present for the inaugural ceremony. Akayami 25, meaning unity, was conducted over 6 days with participation from Comoros, the Djibouti, Kenya, Madagascar, Mauritius, Mozambique, Seychelles and South Africa alongside India and Tanzania. This initiative was aimed at developing collaborative solutions to regional maritime challenges, enhancing interoperability and in strengthening the friendly relations between India and the African nations. The exercise stressed the significance of going along to tackle maritime threats like piracy and trafficking. Now, tragedy strikes Jammu and Kashmir after a massive landslide triggered by continuous rainfall has severely impacted Ramban district. At least 3 people have been killed and over 100 rescued so far. Rescue and relief operation is currently underway. The incessant rain also triggered landslide and mudslides in nearly a dozen places between Nashri and Banihal along the strategic Jammu-Srinagar National Highway, prompting traffic to be suspended. Authorities are working to clear the debris and restore connectivity. Meanwhile, travellers are advised to avoid unnecessary movement and stay updated through official channels. Union Minister Dr. Jatendra Singh shared the information on social media platform X, and I quote him. He said there was a heavy hailstorm, multiple landslides and fast winds throughout the night in the Ramban region, including the area surrounding the Ramban town. The national highway stands blocked and unfortunately there have been 3 casualties and loss of property for a couple of families. I am in constant touch with the Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Basirul Haq Chaudhary. The district administration deserves appreciation for timely and prompt action which helped save several precious lives. Every kind of relief, both financial and otherwise, is being provided. The DC has been conveyed that if needed, whatever more is required can be provided from MP's personal resources as well. The request is not to panic. We shall all together overcome this natural calamity, unquote. Time to take a short break, but still to come on the other side. Up next, we'll get you all the latest on early voting in Canada ahead of 28th of April votes. Thousands of protesters rallied on Saturday in second major round of demonstrations against Donald Trump and his hardline policies.
Bharat welcomes the world to a new era of creativity. Waves World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit as Mumbai hosts the global stage for creativity and innovation. Connecting creators through Creative Sphere, where emerging voices rise. Wave Accelerator, where ideas meet global investors. Waves Bazaar, a global marketplace for content. Connecting countries through global media dialogue and industry roundtable. Bharat Pavilion, capturing India's rich history of storytelling.
वेव्स के रूप में भारत एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म बनाने जा रहा है जिसमें दुनिया के एंटरटेनमेंट लैंडस्केप पर उसको बदलने की क्षमता होगी.
From culturals to cinema, gaming to animation, fueling the next wave of entertainment. Connecting creators, connecting countries. Waves 2025.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India Live. Now, Russia President Vladimir Putin has announced an unexpected and brief unilateral Easter truce in Russia's conflict on Ukraine, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy insists that Russian artillery fire are currently ongoing. Here's more.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin announced a unilateral Easter ceasefire on Saturday. He ordered his military to halt all battlefield action for 30 hours from 1500 GMT on Saturday until the end of Sunday.
Based on the humanitarian considerations, today starting from 1500 GMT to midnight Monday, the Russian side announces an Easter ceasefire. I order a stop to all military activities for this period. We assume that Ukrainian side will follow our example. However, our troops should be ready to repel possible ceasefire violations and provocations by the enemy. Our decision regarding the Easter ceasefire will show how sincere is the readiness of Kyiv regime, its desire and ability to comply with the agreements and participate in peaceful negotiations directed at eliminating the root cause of the Ukraine crisis.
The announcement came during a meeting with Russia's chief of the general staff, where Putin outlined the terms of the truce. Putin also issued a warning, stating that Russian troops should remain prepared to respond if Ukraine violates the ceasefire. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy accused Russian President Putin for already breaching the Easter truce. In a post on X, Zelenskyy said that fighting continued in Russia's Kursk and Belgorod regions and Russian drones were still in use, but added that some areas had become quieter. He reiterated his support for longer truce, saying that 30 hours is enough to make headlines, but not for genuine confidence-building measures. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Russia conducted their largest prisoner exchange since the conflict began over 3 years ago. 277 Ukrainian service personnel returned home from Russian captivity on Saturday, taking the total number of returned prisoners of war to 4,552. While Moscow's defense ministry said that 246 servicemen had been handed over by Kyiv, it said a further 31 injured prisoners of war had been handed over to Ukraine and 15 of its own wounded servicemen had also been returned by Kyiv. Putin's unilateral move followed Trump's announcement that it could abandon peace talks within days unless Moscow and Kyiv showed they were serious about negotiating. Bureau Report, DD India.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once again announced on Saturday that Israel has no choice but to continue fighting in Gaza and vowed to eliminate Hamas. In a late-night televised address, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he had instructed the military to intensify pressure on Hamas. Earlier this week, Hamas rejected Israeli proposal for another temporary truce and demanded a deal to end the conflict in exchange for captives.
I have ordered the IDF to respond firmly and further increase the pressure on Hamas. We are in the war of rebirth, the war on 7 fronts. This war has very heavy prices, because any such loss is a war in and of itself. But we, as the people who desire life, have no choice but to continue fighting for our very existence until victory.
Ad hanitzachon.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu is facing enormous pressure at home. On Saturday, dozens of protesters clashed with police in Tel Aviv as they were demanding an end to the war and the release of the remaining 59 hostages held in Gaza. Families of Israeli hostages also demanded answers from Netanyahu about his plans to negotiate on the return of remaining hostages. In a major development, Hamas on Saturday published a new video of Israeli hostage Elkanah Pohuboth, marking the third such video of Pohuboth to be published in the past month. The latest video showed him with a shaved head sitting in a small room, speaking on a landline phone, and he also appears distressed and desperate. This clip also caused shock and concern about the safety of hostages. Now, Iran and the United States have agreed on Saturday to begin drawing up a framework for a potential nuclear deal. At their second indirect meeting in a week, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi negotiated for 4 hours in Rome with Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff through an Omani official who shuttled messages between them. Later speaking on state television, Araghchi described the engagement as useful and conducted in a constructive atmosphere. He also hoped that Iran will be in a better position to judge on the possibility of reaching an agreement.
As I said, the negotiations were held in a constructive atmosphere, and I can say that they are moving forward and we are moving forward. There is no reason for too much optimism. We cannot say that we are really optimistic. We must be very cautious, but there is no reason for much pessimism either. We must walk a middle path, reasonable and calm.
The top negotiators would meet again in Oman next Saturday to review the experts' work and assess how closely it aligns with the principles of potential agreement. Moving on, the United Nations Development Programme is hoping to deliver a $1.3 billion over 3 years to support Syria, including by rebuilding infrastructure and backing digital startups. A roundtable on Syria, hosted by the Saudi Finance Minister and World Bank, is set to take place on the sidelines of the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank in Washington, D.C. next week. Since former Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad was toppled last year after a nearly 14-year conflict, his successors have called on the international community to lift sanctions imposed against the country during his rule. So far, most of those sanctions remain in place, with the United States and other Western countries saying the new authorities still need to demonstrate a commitment to peaceful and inclusive rule. The death toll from US airstrikes on an oil port in western Yemen rose to 80 on Sunday, marking the deadliest day since the United States escalated its aerial campaign against Houthis. US airstrikes on Thursday paralyzed the Ras fuel port in Yemen's Hudaydah. According to the Red Sea Ports Authority, the port, once used for export of crude oil and import of derivative products of oil and gas, now is completely out of service. 4 weeks ago, US President Donald Trump's administration announced a major military offensive against the Houthis. It also said the airstrikes were aimed at forcing the Houthis to stop threatening ships and its sailing on the Red Sea. Despite the US attacks, Houthis promised to carry out more operations. And amid tensions over the US crackdown on migrants, US Vice President J.D. Vance met senior Catholic Church officials at the Vatican on Saturday in the first such in-person talk of the second Trump presidency. According to a Vatican statement, Vance met with Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's Secretary of State, and his chief deputy. The two sides had cordial talks that included an exchange of opinions on the international situation. Now, Vance and Parolin spoke specially regarding countries affected by war, political tensions, and difficult humanitarian situations, with particular attention to migrants, refugees, and prisoners. The Pope, Parolin, and other Vatican officials have criticized several Trump administration policies and plans to deport millions of migrants from the US. Now, thousands of protesters rallied on Saturday in New York, Washington, and other cities across the United States for a second major round of demonstrations against Donald Trump and his hardline policies. Protesters gathered carrying signs targeting the US president. Many took aim at Donald Trump's deportations of undocumented migrants, also voiced concern that Trump was threatening long-respected constitutional norms, including the right to due process. Organizers hope to use building resentment over Trump's immigration crackdown, his drastic cuts to government agencies, and his pressuring of universities, news media, and law firms to forge a lasting movement. Now, nearly 2 million Canadians voted on Friday, which was the first day of advanced polls. The election authority said high early turnout was a sign of enthusiasm for the ballot in an election campaign that overshadowed tensions with American neighbors. According to the Elections Canada, over 2 million Canadians cast ballots on Friday, which is a 36% increase from the year 2021. Voters have until Monday evening to file early ballots ahead of the 28th of April elections. A Soyuz spacecraft carrying an American and 2 Russians touched down on the steppe of Kazakhstan on Sunday. A Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft spanned 220 days in space. NASA astronaut Don Pettit, Russian cosmonauts Alexei Ovechinin and Ivan Wagner orbited the Earth 3,520 times and completed a journey of 93.3 million miles over the course of their mission. Russia's Roscosmos space agency said that its deorbiting and descent to Earth were normal. Sports updates now. Relishing pleasant morning weather, hundreds of enthusiasts along with film personalities, sportspersons, officials and doctors participated in Fit India Sundays on Cycle campaign in New Delhi. Actor Rahul Bose led the cycle ride from the Major Dhyan Chand National Stadium with an aim to spread the message of fitness and fight against obesity. The race concluded at the same venue after passing by the iconic landmark, India Gate. The initiative promotes cycling as a sustainable, inclusive and an eco-friendly form of exercise with numerous health benefits. The movement was launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to improve people's health, boost mental well-being and help reduce obesity problems, especially among the young children.
Sundays on Cycle campaign is something that for me is a win-win, because exercise is good for everybody, we know that. But also the fact that you are doing this in a community, you're doing this with your friends, you're doing this with your acquaintances, your sporting buddies. One thing I'd like to tell all parents, make your children play if you want them to do well in studies. I know all of you want them to do well in studies. Make your children play. It increases concentration, it increases the ability to withstand pressure, and it gives you better sleep.
In soccer, La Liga leaders Barcelona fought back from 3-1 down to beat Celta Vigo 4-3 in a roller-coaster encounter on Saturday. With the score tied at 3-3 after Celta's Borja Iglesias netted a hat-trick, the game seemed to be heading for a draw when Dani Olmo won a penalty deep into stoppage time and Raphinha stepped up to score and seal the match. The victory has extended their lead over Real Madrid at the top of the table to 7 points now. The result puts pressure back on Real Madrid, who play fourth-placed Athletic Bilbao on Sunday. Now, Christians around the world are celebrating the Easter today, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ on the third day after his crucifixion. One of the most significant festivals in the Christian calendar, Easter is a symbol of victory of life over death, hope and forgiveness to the people. It is marked by celebrating by attending the Easter Mass, enjoying festive meals and their family, having egg hunts and decorations along with spiritual reflection. It is preceded by a 40-day period of fasting, prayers and penance called Lent. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.